Your environment does not define or limit how far your dreams can go. Criticism. You have to know God already ordained you to win. Your dream's success is based on how fast you believe in it. And you must believe it stronger, better, bigger than anyone else. Criticism. This is so good. The criticism, the misunderstandings, the skepticism is part of the package of being a dreamer.
This is The Deep Dive with Jose St. Phard.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. I'm your host, Jose St. Phard. This is the podcast for leaders, dreamers, and changemakers. And today we're dealing with something that most dreamers have to face. Whether you like it or not, if you're a visionary, if you are a leader, if you're a futurist, if you think about where life is headed and where your life is headed, what plan God has for your life, this podcast is for you. Today is for you. And one of the things dreamers often face is criticism. Criticism and misunderstanding. I believe that if you're a dreamer, you're going to have to get really comfortable being misunderstood and get really comfortable with criticizers. It's just one of the things that often happens. Today, we're going to look at the life of the story of Joseph. The Joseph spoken to us from the book of Genesis in the Old Testament. Joseph is a dreamer from a very young age. And there are so many life and leadership lessons in that story that we're going to unpack that I believe can help you. And the whole goal for our podcast today is to determine, how do you guard the God-given dreams you have been given while you are surrounded by doubters? How do you hold on to a dream while you're surrounded by doubters? So let's dive deep. So today we're dealing with skepticism, criticism, and misunderstanding. And one of the things that the scripture tells us, Solomon, who's one of the wisest leaders who've ever lived, wisest kings Israel ever had, wrote down in Ecclesiastes 9, verse 11. Listen to what he says. He says, I've seen something else under the sun. He's talking about what he's recognized in the world as to what impacts man and what impacts our lives. He says, the race is not to the swift. This is so good. Or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. I want to repeat this. What Solomon is telling us is that you don't get to win the race just because you're faster. And you don't win out the battle because you're stronger. You don't have food to feed to your family because you're wiser than everyone else, or you do not get wealthy because you're more brilliant than everyone else. There are people more brilliant than you. There are people less brilliant than you that become wealthy. There are people more brilliant than you that are poor. Favor doesn't happen because you're learned. You don't get people to like you. You're not likable because you're a smart guy. No, time and chance are big components to what determines success in life. I hope you heard that. The success of your dream becoming a reality is not dependent only or solely on how fast you execute that dream, how strong you are in implementing that dream, or how smart you are in carrying it out. That success is determined by how you navigate two things that are beyond your control: time and chance. And I think what scripture is talking about when it talks about time and chance, it's speaking to how do you navigate the time it takes? Come on. How do you navigate the time it takes from dreaming to executing, from dreaming to living the dream? How do you navigate that moment? And how do you navigate all the chance things that could happen? That could be the blessings of God. That could be, chaos or crisis that comes on. How do you navigate the things that happen that you didn't think that could happen now have happened? How do you navigate that? And in the life of Joseph, you recognize a couple of things he's done to ensure that his dream becomes a reality. And I want to unpack those things with you together today. You see, Joseph wasn't just a dreamer. Joseph was a leader. He was a leader in the making, and at the age of 17, he has this dream. He had visions of a future that seemed impossible at the time. A lot of the things that you're living today exist because someone dreamed it up. I mean, the microphone I'm using, the iPad I'm using, all of those were dreams in someone's mind that someone before would have thought, this is impossible. This cannot happen. But someone dreamt it and then executed it. And there's a big difference between dreamers and executors. And often every dreamer must understand that the path from your dream to reality will have plenty of detours. That's what I think Solomon means by chance. There will be plenty of detours. And how do you navigate those detours? It will determine how you hold on to your dream. In Genesis 37, we see Joseph exposing his dream for the very first time. Listen to what it says. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. His brothers said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream and he told it to his brothers. His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Now, growing up in the church, I always listened to this story, and I always thought, man, Joseph's issue was that he told his dream too early. He shared it with the wrong people. He didn't protect his dream. But I think one of the things that is important to understand is that your dream's success is based on how fast you believe in it. The success of your dream, the probability that your dream will become a reality is based on how quickly you have taken on this dream as a reality. I often thought that Joseph spoke his dream too quickly, but the reality is that Joseph believed in his dream enough that he knew that he had to speak it to someone else in order for it to become a reality in his mind. And there are so many articles about this. There are so many entrepreneurs that talk about this idea of not keeping your startup a secret for so long. You have to keep this thing secret and don't tell anybody. Now, certainly you have to be mindful who you trust and who you share, who you tell your dreams to. That's a good lesson to learn. But I think a greater lesson is that Joseph was so confident in his dream that he believed in it enough to share it with people he knew would not like his dream. I mean, come on. Joseph is not dumb, okay? He's not a dumb guy. He knows if I come and tell you one day I had a dream, one day you all will bow down to me, he must understand that it will meet resistance. He must believe that people will not accept his dream. He must know that his brothers will become jealous of him. He must comprehend that there will be people who will try to keep him from making that dream a reality. But when he had the dream, he received it, he believed it, he was so confident in it that he decided, I'm going to share it, I'm going to put it out there, I'm going to let it become a reality so that whatever forces come against my dream, I'm ready to fight. The first step in making sure your dream becomes a reality is you must believe in the dream. You must believe it. And you must believe it stronger, better, bigger than anyone else. You can't depend on other people to believe this dream with you. Dreamers have the tenacity to keep dreaming while everyone else is worrying. This is good stuff. Listen, this is good stuff. Dreamers have the capacity to keep believing while everyone else is stressing. Dreamers understand that there's something greater at stake that requires them to believe the dream, even though at the moment the dream seems impossible. Joseph believed in his dream so much that he not only told his brothers that one day you will bow down to me, he told his dad. Joseph said, I'm going to just put it out there. If the universe is going to come against it, if people are going to come against it, if there are people that are going to come, if there are principles and powers and energies that are going to come against this dream, I'm going to put it out there because it's time to fight. The minute Joseph knew, the minute he released the dream, he knew there would be opposition. And most of the time, the reason why you are scared of releasing the dream, I hope I'm talking to somebody, is because you don't believe in the dream. You're scared to release it because you're still playing what ifs in your mind. Well, what if it doesn't work out? Or what if this doesn't work? Or what if somebody does this? Or what if and here's the people that are playing what ifs are still playing what if. The people that are living the reality, they thought, wow, can you imagine what it's going to look like when this happens? Joseph wasn't sitting home thinking, what if my brothers hate me? What if my father takes me away from the house? No, Joseph knew he had a dream. He believed that dream came from God. So he declared that dream as a reality. So much so, Joseph believed the dream because look what his brother says. Do you intend to reign over us? Joseph just declared a dream, but his brothers understood that the way Joseph was telling that dream, Joseph wasn't just dreaming. Joseph was imagining its reality. This is so good. This is so powerful. I hope you can understand it as a dreamer, as a leader, as someone who understands that God has a future in mind for your life, that you must believe in this so much that it doesn't matter who opposes you, you are going to tell it. You're going to share it, not because they need to hear it, but you need to hear it in their context. You need to understand that this is a reality for you, because the faster you face the opposition, the quicker you will win, because guess what? Time and chance are at play. Time and chance are at play. So you can't risk not sharing, not telling people, here's what God is going to do in my life. Here's what God has placed over my life. Here's what I know to be true about me. This is what David did with Goliath. David understood that God had placed something over his life. And so when Goliath came against him and said, you're only a boy, David said, you've got me wrong. You've got somebody else in mind. David, who was the king of Israel, David, who is Solomon's father, by the way, David says, listen, you come with me with javelins and swords, but I come with you in the name of the Lord God Almighty. The same God who destroyed lions and bears, the same God who allowed me to defeat the opposition before, is the same God that's going to allow me to defeat you. David believed one day he will be king. And so because he will be king one day, this giant could not oppose him. Listen, when you are a dreamer that God has placed over your life, you have to know God already ordained you to win. God ordained you to win. Therefore, whatever the opposition is against you, you don't need to worry about them. Listen, Joseph said, look, one day, here's my dream. Every one of you will bow down to me. And they said, do you intend? Here's what Joseph's response was. Joseph didn't go cower somewhere in his room. Joseph didn't go, man, I wonder if this is the reality. I wonder if this. No. Joseph went and shared his dream with his dad. He said, not only are you going to bow down, but my dad's going to bow down. So he understood that his dream had bigger perspective. It wasn't about him. Okay. He understood that his dream was bigger. The second thing that you have to understand, for your dream to survive skepticism, for your dream to survive criticism, for your dream to survive misunderstanding, is that you must understand your dream is not about you. Your dream is for the sake of someone else. Your dream is for the sake of the world. Your dream is for impact that happens beyond you. Joseph understood that he wasn't going to be there just for him. Joseph understood that his dream wasn't just about him. You have to understand, my dream, the reason why God has ordained a dream over my life is so that I can serve people around me. And Joseph knew that he was going to be placed in Egypt in order to make room for Israel's survival for generations to come. Your dream, your God-ordained dream, is too big to be about you. So that's why you can believe in it. Because it's not about your success. It's about the success of those around you. So you have to believe in it because other people won't. Here's another thing that I think is important for us to understand as leaders. Your environment does not define or limit how far your dreams can go. Your environment does not define or limit how big your dreams can be. Your environment does not define or limit how great your dream can be. You do. You are the limitation, not God, not your environment, you. You determine how much you can dream. Because Joseph did not allow his environment to set the limitation on his dream. When he was talking about, this is so good. When he was talking about one day you're going to bow down, he was just the youngest boy amongst 12 boys, amongst a family that had older men in there already, that he should not have even been dreaming or thinking that his brothers will bow down to him. He was a part of a small family somewhere in the middle of the desert, and yet he's believing that one day he's going to be someone that his brothers will bow down to him. How can it be? Now, for those of you who don't fully know Joseph's story, here's the thing that's amazing. Joseph ends up becoming the prime minister of one of the greatest nations on earth at the time. Joseph becomes the prime minister of Egypt. He is handling crisis management for an entire nation in the midst of a famine. He comes from a small family, and one day, just as his dreams declared, all of his brothers, including his father, bows down to him without knowing. They don't know. Here's the thing. They thought that Joseph could not possibly accomplish this dream because of where he came from. Don't let where you come from determine where you're going. Your outcome has nothing to do with where God took you out of. In fact, what God took you out of is the stepping stone for where God's bringing you through. You have to understand that. This is something that's so important. I'm so passionate about this. I'm so unbelievably connected to this idea because I've always been a dreamer. I've always been able to see things that other people don't see. I've always been misunderstood, criticized. People are often skeptical of dreamers. But here's the reality. The only limit to how far you can dream is you. If you allow environments to tell you how far you can dream, then you are going to limit the ability of God to do big things through you. Listen to it. Listen to what happened to Joseph. Joseph was one of Joseph's detours is that he's thrown into prison, accused of violating his master's wife. Of course, the story tells us that he never did such a thing. In fact, it was his master's wife that wanted him, but he did not allow that setback to destroy his dream. In fact, in Genesis 39, verse 20 to 23, the story, it goes like this. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Joseph thrived despite the skepticism, despite the place he was put under, despite of the fact he was misunderstood, despite of the fact that he was blamed and accused. He focused on God's favor and not on people's approval. You determine how much you believe in the dream God has given you. Joseph understood this one thing: I can't make my dream come true, but God can. I can't make my dream become a reality, but God can. Notice the amount of things that are against Joseph. He's in prison. He's in the king's prison. He's not getting out anytime soon. He's in a prison that they literally put the king's people in. And there he could have just, went about his business, forget the dream, live out the rest of his days in prison, get discouraged. And if he was acting like that, there's no way the warden would have seen him. You see, there's this thing about time and chance, being in the right place at the right time, but being prepared to act out based on what you believe God has for you. Someone said success is when preparation meets opportunity. Joseph stayed believing in the dream and acting as a future leader even while being in prison. So much so that the leaders around Joseph bowed down to his leadership. The warden said, "You're the leader. I'm not even going to think about any of this stuff. You take care of it." Because God's favor was on him. Chance. Chance. And I believe what was being spoken about is blessing, favor. That there is in every entrepreneur, every leader, every person who's done something great, understand that there's a bit of chance in all of it. Some people call it luck. I call it favor. I call it blessing. Genesis says that God's favor was with him. That is, Joseph, no matter how terrible the situation or the environment he was in, God's presence remained with him. And when you believe that God has called you to do something, that's what you need to rely on. Not man's criticism, not man's approval, not what so-and-so says about you, not whether or not they believe you. It's simply, God is with me, so I know this is going to happen. Because you have to understand this. Every dreamer has detours. And every detour is a setback for a setup to come back. Every dreamer has detours, and every detour is a setback to set you up for a comeback. Listen. God will position you as a dreamer through difficult and challenging situations in order for you to have the ultimate impact. Watch. If Joseph had not been thrown in prison, meet some folks who used to work for the king. Joseph then interprets their dream. They get back to the king. And eventually are in a place where they can tell the king, I know someone who can give you an interpretation for this dream. If Joseph had not been in prison, none of that would have happened. There's nothing that could have prepared Joseph. Nothing could have set him up so well than this. Being in prison with one of Pharaoh's own cupbearers, someone who's at the right hand of Pharaoh. Sometimes you ask, why this detour? Why am I going through this pain? Why am I going through this difficulty? If you don't go through it, what you're being shaped into, you're not going to be ready for. The dream God is shaping you for is bigger than who you are right now. And sometimes it's those very challenges that help you become that kind of person. And for those of you who know the story, eventually his brothers come looking for food. He's the one in charge. They end up bowing down, and now the dream becomes a reality. Joseph dreams this at 17. He ends up living that dream at 40. There is a time between when the dream is given to when the dream becomes a reality. How you manage that time in between is important. First, you must believe it for yourself. Secondly, you must understand it's bigger than you. Thirdly, you cannot rely on human promises. You have to trust God's timing. And fourth, you have to understand that every setback you face is actually setting you up to make this dream become a reality. The criticism, the misunderstandings, the skepticism is part of the package of being a dreamer. When you're a dreamer, you will face that kind of opposition. That's why the quicker you believe it for yourself, the quicker the dream becomes a reality. So guard your vision against doubters by believing it for yourself, so that when the doubters speak, their voice is minimal compared to the voice you've built up in your head. You know God's giving you this dream. It's not for me. It's for the world. God's going to do it, not me, not anyone else. God will do it for me. At the proper time, the Lord will make it happen. So, what are some things you can do? Depend primarily on the giver of the dream, God. Execute everything you do with excellence. That's what Joseph did. Everywhere he was, whatever environment, he knew I'm going to be a leader one day, so he acted as a leader. So act like your dream before your dream becomes a reality. And then finally, trust that the setbacks are part of the process. If you've enjoyed this episode today, we thank you for listening to the deep dive. We hope that you can share it with someone else that needs it. If you can hit that notification button and subscribe to our channel, we'd love for you to be part of our deep dive community. Also, we'd love to hear from you. Throw us some words in the comments. Let us know, how did this impact you? What's some questions that you have? How can we serve you better as a leader, as a dreamer, as an entrepreneur who wants to put their faith as part of the process of doing big things, who wants to believe that God has something great for them? I want you to know that I want to serve you. I want to partner with you. I want to keep dreaming with you. I want to keep believing God for you and keep diving deep.
This is The Deep Dive with Jose St. Phard.